Have you got a particular board that you want to keep your eyes on for the rest of today? Is there one specific matchup that you're gunning for?
Well, the Prague board, of course, is really important. Being the tournament leader, and for Nodirbek as well, can he catch up or perhaps even leapfrog the standings going into the first rest day, but a different...
Or just as importantly, I should say, does White need to care about it? What are the themes here?
Well, let's take it from the top. Let's fire up the replay on this one. So Leon started with the queen's pawn opening, and we see the knight coming out, c4, all standard, and this is when things start to get fun. So Arjun strikes in the center with the c-pawn moving forward, and this is usually responded with not a trade, but White trying to gain more space by pushing the d-pawn one step ahead. And this is when things get fun. The move b5, this is the Blumenfeld gambit, because essentially black is giving up a pawn here. Of course, if you capture immediately, you lose the central pawn, the d5 pawn. So one way to do it, but a very, very dangerous one, is to take on e6. And black's idea, the gambit, the bait that's on the board, is that you capture with a side pawn, and if white was to grab the pawn on the b file, then you advance and take a lot of control of the center. And you can see that black has this beautiful flexible center. Eventually the bishop comes out on b7, the knight comes out on d7, the f file is already open once the bishop is developed, and you're looking for immense piece activity. We see that Mendonca slowed down. He's a little terrified of taking that free pawn that's being offered by Arjun. Arjun loves these kind of positions, where he's playing for the initiative. I wonder what decision Mendonca's going to take.
Very interesting to go down this sort of line, but also very sensible considering Arjun's personality over the chessboard, to be fair. He doesn't mind mixing things up, not only going for the initiative, but making his opponent make mistakes once he's won it. That's obviously a very, very big thing for him. This is comfortably within book, by the way, so we're not here sensationally saying this is going to be absolutely amazing. There's no mate in 26s on the board or anything like that, but it does give us a good indication that some strong fighting chess is going to come out on this board today. And here we can see Leon just having a little bit of a think.
I will say one thing, that it will be absolutely sensational if Leon does take that gambit on b5, because that's when things get really fun. But if he wants, he can also...
He's not going to take straight away though, is he? Surely
not straight away. When he does take on e6 and wins that extra pawn, it gets super fun super quickly. But John, there is another way to play, and in fact I just checked in my database. It's the move, the more solid approach in the position that you can have is simply to develop the bishop to g5. And in that way, it almost looks like that black's the one who has the power to take the extra pawn, but now it will be white who gets the control of the center, because notice how the knight on f6 has been pinned by that bishop. So if Mendonca wants to take a more cautious approach, a more solid approach, then he's going to take out his bishop. If he wants... That's a great question. And it's not very clear to me how you're making progress because f4 is very difficult to achieve. The one weakness that I do see in this position is a6. Somehow white has to improve the position of the queen. I would love to put the queen here. Yes, right now b3 is hanging, so it's probably not a possibility. But I'm eyeing the h5 square, and I'm also eyeing the a6 pawn. And I just wonder, now that Arjun's gone back to b7, will Mendonca fall upon this idea with knight to a5 and then placing? You just have to try to better your piece position, improve the position of your pieces one by one. Queen e2, what does it achieve? I'm not really sure, but it just feels like you're attacking a6. At the right moment, you'll jump on h5. By the way, repeat it again. Knight a5 on the board. Arjun will play rook b6.
So I have an idea that I can't make work, Tanya, and I want to see if you can help me make it work. My idea was black is putting all of the pressure on the b3 pawn right now with the double rooks. Oh, there's the handshake. There's the draw agreed. There's the draw agreed. There you go. Yeah, they have repeated moves. It is a draw. So that is the next game to finish. Tanya, I want to go through with my idea because I don't think it works, but I need the refutation. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy. If you go back to c4, there's part of me that's thinking, logically, what do I do to improve my position as white? Black's rooks are targeting b3, right? So if there's a way to close off the b file, might be a way to do that. So the idea I had was a4, because the idea behind a4 is to play a5 and eventually play knight b6. And I want to play knight b6 because black's dark squared bishop is outside the pawn chain, so it's really hard to swap off the bishop for the knight. And if the problem is I can't make it work because of bishop c3, because the queen is behind the bishop. But I was thinking, can a4, a5, knight b6 help cement a white advantage? That's the only thing I can think of that isn't h4, which looks really scary.
I think you make a great point, but a4 again comes with its own set of consequences, right? The first thing is you weaken a b4 square. Somehow pawn moves, I'm always terrified of making them. Second pawn move, a5, it would allow black to get active with the bishop on b5. That knight on b6 would be a bit superfluous. Once black's rook is on b4, the bishop is on b5, that knight really doesn't have too many targets to look at. a5 might be a little bit of a weakness. Instead, I thought the idea of rerouting the queen, maybe even shuffling the queen and the bishop, trying for some tricks with e5, just to keep the game going. But it just came down to the fact that Mendonca did not feel he's better here. He felt that Arjun has enough compensation and has created a bind, and it's tough for him to break as the players continue to analyze. And Mendonca decided to take the repetition here. I will tell you one thing. If the colors were switched,